We'll move on to item number 10, which is new park development on Harder Parkway, plans and specifications, and Mr. McIntyre will be presenting this as well.
2 in a row. Thank you. In the interest of improving our community's quality of life, I am requesting council to consider the approval of plans and specs and request to go out to bid for a potential new park based right off of Harder Parkway. This is Harder Park going from north to south. This is a 5-acre park that includes a connection, a future connection to going west to the Cedar Buttes bike path. I will talk about amenities here in a little bit, but just the geography of it. I wanted to make sure that council understands that this is, I believe, one, it is in the Tierra Buena area, and I'll talk about that underserved area here in a little bit. But this park is certainly anticipated to be a regional destination. And it isn't your typical neighborhood park. It is 5 acres, which is a typical neighborhood park. However, there are 48 parking spots and a restroom located because we believe a lot of people will be coming in, and this will be their destination of getting onto bikes that they brought in and then heading back out on the bike path. Back in 2017, let me make sure, let me go forward one more. So back in 2017, Tierra Buena was designated as certainly an underserved area of our parks. There's, as I mentioned before in my last staff presentation, there was no parks in the Tierra Buena area. So in 2017, the Parks and Rec Commission went through 3 public meetings at Tierra Buena School. 2 of those meetings were committed to just identifying park amenities and locations for a future park someday. Then comes 2018, where we apply for a grant for $800,000. 2019, we get that grant, and it was a match for that. Since the award, we've hired Quadriga. It's a landscape architect and planning out of Sacramento. Some of the unique features, we'd like to try to have unique features in all of our parks. And so it's not just kind of a cookie cutter approach. But some of the certainly unique features that I'll be talking about will be the bicycle park, which features, let's see if this works still. No. The pump track, fitness area and challenge course, and the continuous walking perimeter path with solar lighting. There will be an area that's committed to a passive area that will have these following components in them as well. On that bottom left, you see that's a ping pong table, and on the right in the center bottom, that's a cornhole. They now make those that your next question is, how do those not walk off? The cornhole weighs about 200 to 300 pounds, and the ping pong table weighs about 500 to 600 pounds. One of the unique features, of course, staying with the theme of bicycling, is to create a pump track. The pump track in this design that we are proposing, now I want this to work. Is right in the middle is a cement pump track. And a pump track is exactly that, is that you gain momentum on your bike through pumping, not through pedaling. It gives the rider who are typically highly skilled in this to go off high ramps. It is a continuous circle. And this would be about one of about 3 in California. On the outside of the pump track, you see it would be for beginners. It is for children that are just learning to ride, where they would just kind of learn to go over small bridges, go around cones, go through, kind of a challenge to go through those rings, come back around. And at any point, let's say they were uncomfortable with right there with the S turn, then they would just be able to go around it and keep continuing. Also, thank you for your patience, we have in the middle of it where it gets a little bit more complicated for the bicyclists. These are people that are comfortable, but yet not comfortable yet to get into the pump track. I'd like to also notice that there is a potential plan to have a signage into the bike park to where we would see if there were any sponsors that would want to sponsor the pump track itself. The sign right there is just kind of what I just talked about. Also within that area, we'd have bicycle parking, and we would have the bike fix-it station with wrenches and air pumps for individuals that were getting ready to head out on the Setter bike path, or for individuals that were participating in the park itself. There will be 2 different playgrounds, typically a K through 12.
That's cool.
There'll be 2 playgrounds that we typically have in our parks. One for children 2 to 5 and then children 5 to 12. You can see the theme fairly well. Again, staying with the bicycle theme through design. Also in this park, we have inclusive spinners, which is the one on the left. We have this in 2 or 3 of our other parks. We have a climbing wall also, which is in the middle. And then we have a variety of swings, which would be inclusive as well. And then to the unique part of this as well is an exercise area. So since even really before COVID, we received a lot of requests to put components like this in our parks. The first one on the left is what's called a cross fitness ring. It facilitates 13 individuals who are exercising sit-ups, pull-ups, the old-fashioned monkey bars, a heavyweight ball. That individual is in the middle of flight right now trying to hit a target up on top. And then on the right side, you've got a cross-rig suspension training station. That's pretty self-explanatory. In fact, I've seen the mayor do this quite often in the last couple of months. We've also have the mayor. Also, we've had
They're throwing that ball. Where's the ball land?
the ball lands. See that? Let's see. Right. Hang on. Right there. See the bullseye? That's where they're trying to hit the ball. Now that ball, Mayor, could be either be 2 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds.
Or no pounds.
Or no pounds. To your left there, you've got plyometric steps. And to the right, we have what is called just a challenge course. It has a called the Bamboo Challenge Course. But it is a challenge course that is, again, self-explanatory. This is typically where I get the question about fall safety, which all of our playgrounds have fall safety and enough FIBAR in there to be able to handle that. We will not put the city at too much risk. Keyword 2. We've also have our accessible hand cycle, which is there on the left, and parallel bars that, again, probably some of us have seen when we were in elementary school. Some of the features that we've seen in our other parks, we have a continuous walking path, but this one will be lit, as you see on the bottom left. We have a full basketball court. This, believe it or not, out of all the park amenities that we did surveys on back in 2017 with the Tierra Buena residents, the full court basketball court was number 1. We have a couple of disc golf buckets that will be spread out around the park as well for kind of beginning disc golf. And then, of course, you've got bathroom that I talked about that will be next to the parking lot. And open space for children just to freely play. Now, this is the part I got to get right. So, the not so fun stuff is that when we started this project, back in 2019, we knew or we felt very strongly that we could keep it under 2 million. So if you add the grant and what the city matched it with, which we already have, it was at 1.6, and then we felt we could just keep it right around 2 million. However, with COVID, with the cost of materials and inflation, obviously, which I know everyone in this room understands what I'm getting ready to say, is that now we are looking at the potential cost coming in at 2.8 million. That is what Quadriga just gave us this estimate about 3 weeks ago. And so it is certainly over budget, potentially over budget. We haven't committed to anything. And so that is something that needs to be addressed. It is staff's desire to come before you after we go out to bid and before awarding a contract, to come before you and give us the ability to figure out how to either value engineer it, which I learned that word just a couple of weeks ago as well, which means we're going to take things away, or give us an option to find additional funding. That pretty much says what I just talked about. Certainly alternatives would be to instruct staff to direct Quadriga to modify the plans and specifications. And of course, time schedules and funding sources, meaning the $800,000 from the grant could be impacted and probably would be impacted. And there is our staff's recommendation for council.
All right, thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Questions from the council?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre, I do not see one specific court in there.
One what?
Court,
There's a basketball court.
a different kind of court.
Oh, that court. No, you do not. Right now, I think we have met that need as it relates to pickleball courts. But we do also have a grant in play that we hope to hear back from that is part of Sam Brandon Park.
So that,
And lighting.
that wasn't on the survey in 2017?
Actually, it was not.
People didn't come up with that?
They did not.
Very surprised. So, I mean, the plan looks great. Where's the rest of the money coming from?
A lot of lemonade. We're not sure. We want the chance. This is kind of a fairly new problem. We certainly would like the ability to solve it.
So,
CMO.
through the mayor, as Mr. McIntyre points out, engineers' estimates, as we work with Diana and her team, we felt this was the best approach to actually get what the true cost of specs and plans are so that we can come back and create a plan either to get with the funding we have and build a park or figure out another way. But unfortunately, engineers' estimates are just that. And this approach here allows us the opportunity to get some true cost and be able to bring back some true facts and figures for the council to consider.
I mean, the design looks beautiful. It would be amazing for the community. The only, drawback is there's no pickleball courts, but I can live with that. Then the cost itself too, but the design of that, I think it really looks great. In a perfect world, would this be done in 10 years from now, or how?
In a perfect world, the timeline would be that we would have a contract in place by the end of this calendar year, that we would break ground by February or March and completed by the summer of 2022.
Wow, that's more aggressive than I thought. Thank you. That's good.
Through the mayor?
Yeah.
So if this goes in, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be the only park in Yuba City with a full court basketball with a restroom.
That would be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Does Blackburn Tally have full court basketball?
They do, but they don't have access to the bathrooms.
With the restroom part was the one.
So let me weigh in because I'll jump in here a little bit on the full court. There was a pretty strong reason why that happened way back then, and it had to do with some violence. And it was thought at the time that half-court basketball was less conducive to folks getting into altercations. So I think that's one issue that I know there's probably a pent-up need. I think everybody would prefer to play some full-court basketball, but I just think we need to pay attention to that. The other thing, the one comment that I've gotten on this park consistently, and it came up while we were out doing the cleanup, was if you put restrooms out there, you're going to make that attractive to folks that don't necessarily mingle well there, i.e., I'm going to speak bluntly, it could become an attractive place for folks who do not have a place to live, to hang out. So I know that was raised in this chambers by those folks when we first brought up the project. So whatever gets designed in those restrooms, I think obviously security is a big issue. And I remember coming up with Sam Brannon, there were some pretty expensive security thoughts. I think it was when we were doing the CDBG stuff. Just I think those are points to be concerned about as the plans continue to develop. But anyway.
I know the vice mayor's trying to dig in, sorry.
So through the mayor, I think, yes, that is obviously a concern. Part of the park that we've added is the lighting so that police, as they are driving by, which is a little bit different than Sam Brannon because the bathroom and the parking is pretty much right up front along Harder Park. So that was with the awareness that could be a problem. And the second thing is that there will be cameras installed in this project as well. But it is still a concern, and
I think we heard the public comment from those in the neighborhood, and I just want to make sure that we continue to keep their thoughts in our mind as this thing moves forward. I think, Vice Mayor, you had.
That was fine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions there. First of all, I appreciate your concept and design and the whole team because we don't want the same amenities at each park because we want to be able to specialize throughout the city and have people go. And we've got great pickleball courts that were just redone a few years ago, so those are great. My concern, getting to what the mayor said, making this attractive for those that are already in our parks. And how is the lighting going to affect this? Because we already have dawn to dusk at all of our others. Now we're going to have a park that is surrounded by lights. Is that going to run us into issues? And the concerns gets back to the restrooms and things of that nature. Do you have any thoughts on that at this point, or do we just need to have that as a point of concern going forward with how that's going to affect our ability to keep our parks clean and safe?
So I think the lighting is a good thing as far as, it gives the police the ability to see what's happening quickly as they are driving along Harder Parkway. I believe that probably here in the next budget year, I will be asking for additional funding for security for our parks. It doesn't mean that they will be a full-time security or will be a full-time staff member, but I need the ability to, and I'm currently utilizing it right now. We'll see how much it costs at the end of the year. But I am moving security around pretty much every week now, whether it's in certain parks where we have issues. And I anticipate this will be the story as well. But that is a common theme in all of our parks right now.
Okay. If I could just ask Mr. Mayor that maybe our city manager, we have a little follow-up with this just to make sure we're not going to open Pandora's box by having a lit park in the evenings. I get the security, but there's also secondary concerns that go with that. I appreciate the security, the cameras, but do we open up Pandora's box by having a lit park at night versus our parks are unlit for the most part now, and it's a dawn to dusk type of environment. We're supposed to be out of there in the evening. And then the other question I had is, we realize the overall cost has skyrocketed because of the supply chain. You put up the timeline of next spring, early summer. Have we any idea if that's really realistic at this point? Because you have a lot of equipment there. You have Ninja Warrior stuff, you've got bike paths, you've got basketball goals, playground equipment. Any idea if that's going to hold up the timeline on this park as well, potentially?
That's a great question. No, I do not have an answer to that that part. I know that we could possibly phase the park in based on when the equipment comes in, but I would look to Ms. Langley to tell me that's a stupid idea or whatever. But, so yeah, that is certainly a strong possibility right now, just based on everything else.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council, comments?
Brad, as you explained that we have a budget shortfall on the projection of the cost of the park. Is there do we have enough in place to at least get the thing opened and then maybe add equipment incrementally as we get more funding?
Well, again, I don't know that answer until the bids come back. And then the concept is that, we're going to break those bids line item by line item, and then we'll see what we can provide. I'm hesitant to even give you an answer on that because I don't know.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Through the mayor, I do have to say that I'm often at Sam Brandon Park because that's where we have the pickleball courts, and they are in really awesome condition, yet there is a lot of need to fix the courts and better lighting, and the circumstances where that court lies right now, there is quite a bit of activity, and having security beyond what our policing service or fire does, I think is a really notable idea because being out there late at night with, 4 women or 8 women or whatever the number of teams, I'm usually out there maybe 2, 3 times, 4 times a week. So I see it firsthand, and I think it's really a smart idea for us to consider that and to try to find a way to budget for the security, because then that relieves the extra calls for policing or fire in these circumstances where security, we see noticeably the difference immediately, just having that security person at that park late at night, even when it's super dark and you're driving and you're trying to figure out if there's a person in the bathroom or something, it's kind of creepy and scary if you haven't been out there, where people can come out of that complete darkness into the area of the pickleball with the lighting, and it can be a little scary. So we've had a few situations out there, and Brad and our CM Dave and police and fire have been excellent in the response and services. But knowing I'm concerned about the safety of community when they're out there wanting to just have a really good time. And I know that the pickleball courts are full every Saturday. If you get up at 7:30 on a Saturday, then you can go certainly see that they're full. But I love the idea of this park, and I would hope that maybe we consider finding ways to fund for security to make, have people feel much more safer while they're enjoying the park.
Anybody else? Comments from the public? Heather?
Surprised?
No.
But I'm Heather Esselman. I live at Lincoln Road in the city limits, just for the record, right? So I just wanted to point out, because there was a part of both of this presentation and another presentation you might have noticed, he kind of went through it pretty quickly, but if you look to the west of 99, there are 3 parks. When you look to the east of 99, there are multiple, it's just spotted full of parks. So even those parks on the west side, you have Regency, which is way at the top, you have Happy Park, which is way at the bottom, and in between there, the only park is the little Holly Tree Park, which is, most people wouldn't know unless they lived in that community that there was a park there. So we desperately need something in between all of that to fill up that space. Now, ideally what you'd want to have is something within about a half a mile of where you live, whether it's a park or some sort of a recreational activity, whether it's a community center or something, so that you can show, when you're trying to sell houses and things like that, the desirability for the city. So that whole area there is just completely not serviced, basically, for that need. And you were talking about lighting. I did notice in the municipal codes, because I was reading through them, that there are certain rules basically the parks are supposed to be open from dusk till dawn unless you're doing certain types of activities. So you do have a way of, if there are people that aren't behaving and it's after and it's dark, you do have some way of being able to, grab onto a code and say, you're not here, it's supposed to be here, this is an infraction. So I like the way that Mr. McIntyre is trying to approach this, because there's no way for us to know how much it's going to cost until we actually get those bids and those quotes in. And then you need to put everything in there, see how much it's going to cost, and then start picking out and saying, okay, well, do we need that much lighting? Maybe we can put off the bike thing and see if we can find a sponsor to help us pay for that type of situation, and those decisions can be made later. But unless you actually go out to bid and try to get those that information, you're not going to be able to get a good grasp onto what you can offer the public, and then let the public decide also. So if you need more pickleball, that type of thing. But I believe what he was talking about, I participated back in 2017, I believe in that, and there was a desire for that full court of a basketball. And I think at that time, pickleball was relatively new, and we hadn't really even started. They didn't know it was going to be very popular. So things tend to take a little while, but I'm sure that in any future considerations, and I intend to come tomorrow because they're going to make some changes on the Planning Commission on the Lincoln Plan, where we were promised basically if that had gone through with 82 acres of parks and recreational activities, spaces, and since that's basically going to just kind of potentially be something that goes along the wayside, then we're lost all of that, and I think that's kind of sad. So I highly recommend that you consider going forward with this project, and we'll see what we can do as far as trying to find some funding. So, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Anybody else? Not online.
No public comment.
All right, before I bring it to the council, a couple final comments for me. Number one, I think the fact that we're even talking about building a park is phenomenal, given everything that's going on, especially, given the times we're in. There's probably some things, and it probably sounds like, my goodness, we just beat the heck out of this park. I don't think that's the intent. I think it's exciting to try to get another park in town, to Heather's comments, and certainly up in that area is important. I will echo the funding part. We've now had at least a couple items on here, and funding continues to be an issue. And I think this is something that, as we continue to move forward as a council over the next budget cycle, et cetera, we better find the ability to pay or not to pay for some of these things. So with that being said, I'll bring this back to the council for potential action.
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the new park development on Harder Parkway and authorizing advertisement for bids on the project.
All right, got a motion by Councilperson Kirchner, a second by Councilperson Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item 10 passes unanimously. We'll move to item number, thank you, Brad.